China's foreign minister says President Trump's closure of its Houston consulate will sabotage China-U.S. relations. He's even warned we're on the brink of a new Cold War. Is he right? The answer coming up. So here's the scoop. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called the State Department's order to vacate its Houston consulate, quote, a political provocation unilaterally launched by the U.S. that will sabotage China-U.S. relations. Earlier, Wang Yi said this.
现在要警惕的是，美国一些政治势力正在绑架中美关系，试图把中美关系推向所谓的新冷战。
Oh, please, Yi, save us the feigned innocence. The U.S.-China relationship has deteriorated because of China's provocative behavior. State Department ordered the consulate closed to, quote, protect American intellectual property and Americans' private information. And it was long overdue. China steals between 300 and 600 billion in American intellectual property every single year. Although the consulate closure was a good first step, it isn't nearly enough. The problem is the espionage isn't just being committed by China's diplomatic corps. Every Chinese national, student, scientist, academic, and businessman with access to sensitive information must be assumed to be transmitting it directly to Beijing. That's because they're required to under the country's national security law as part of China's civilian-military fusion strategy through which China seeks to develop a military to rival the US's by the year 2049. China's General Secretary Xi Jinping says, quote, civil-military integration is beneficial to strengthen China's war potential. What's that sound like to you?
Although today I am friendly, tomorrow will be war.
China declared war, to be sure a cold one, against the U.S. decades ago, but until recently no one seemed to notice. Did you know that China operates a massive propaganda apparatus right here in the U.S. to undermine our national security interests? China currently operates Confucius Institutes on close to 100 U.S. college campuses. The institutes are supposed to be about promoting Chinese culture and language, but they're really tasked with spying, disseminating Chinese disinformation, and, through the power of the purse, influencing college curriculum to be more pro-China. But don't take my word for it. Chinese Politburo member Li Chengchun said, the Confucius Institute has made an important contribution toward improving our soft power using the excuse of teaching Chinese language. Everything looks reasonable. China has also used its billions in investments in movies and access to its lucrative market as leverage to force Hollywood to advance its propaganda objectives. Did you know the Red Dawn reboot was supposed to be about a Chinese invasion of the US? China forced the studio to make the bad guys the North Koreans. Oh, I'm sure that thrilled them. And in the Top Gun sequel, Chinese censors made the studio remove a Taiwanese flag from Maverick's flight jacket. Chinese have also worked aggressively using government-subsidized predatory pricing tactics to increase U.S. dependence on them for critical materials, to give them an edge in the event of a conflict. The Henry Jackson Society says the U.S. is already dependent on China for 27.8% of its critical industrial goods, including 68% of the rare earth minerals we use. The COVID-19 crisis should have served as a wake-up call. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says there's enormous evidence that the source of the virus was the Wuhan Institute of Virology and not a wet market. And although genomic analyses say the way the virus is configured make it unlikely to have been engineered, China continues to reject U.S. demands that it open the lab up to U.S. inspectors, and that raises questions. Regardless of the virus origin, China suppressed information about COVID-19 that could have saved hundreds of thousands of lives. The Chinese lied about the human-to-human transmission risks, muzzled a whistleblower when he tried to warn the world, and blocked domestic travel to Wuhan to protect Chinese nationals, while allowing international travel to continue. Chinese government would have us believe these were all just unfortunate errors. Well, I'm not buying it. It wouldn't be the first time China put American lives at risk to advance its own interests. In 2008, for example, 149 Americans died after using Chinese-manufactured heparin that had been made using a cheaper ingredient with similar, but obviously more dangerous properties. That same year, the Chinese shipped toothpaste to the U.S. that was tainted with a poisonous compound used in antifreeze and solvents. It's time we wake up to the fact that China considers the U.S. its greatest geopolitical and economic enemy, and it's time we fundamentally alter our relationship with China. My group, the National Center for Public Policy Research, has devised a 9-point plan to start that process. We call for continuing a ban on travel to and from China until they come clean on COVID-19, increasing the types and numbers of investments subject to security reviews by the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States, and expanding use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to restrict new U.S. investments in China in critical sectors. It's all in our report, Beyond COVID-19, available for free on our website. China is at war with everything that this country stands for, and it's time we fought back. You can help support our work in this area by making a tax-deductible donation today at nationalcenter.org/donate, and that's the scoop.